What the heck are acts and how can you use them in your story? And more importantly, how can you make sure you're not using them wrong? In this lesson, we're diving into the most common use of acts called 3-act structure to discover what acts are, why they're useful, and the secret to understanding how they relate to the protag, the plot, and one idea you might not expect. This video is a lesson from a full free mega course on our website. If you're ready to supercharge your storytelling, click the link in the description and start your journey today. This video is also part of a series, so if you haven't watched the previous videos, there are links down below. Let's start with the obvious. What is an act? An act is a broad way of describing a portion of your story. Unlike the A story and B stories, which split your story horizontally, acts split your story vertically. You can have 1, 2, 3, 4, or as many acts as you want. They can also be different lengths, but usually structuralists will recommend a certain number of acts to help you break apart your story. And the most common number is 3, hence 3-act structure. One quick note, you may be familiar with the term acts from the theater, where a show is literally divided into 2 parts with an intermission between them. Those acts are different from the ones we're talking about, because those acts split the story for the audience, while our acts will split the story for us, the writers. Now, back to 3-act structure. The writer and structuralist Sid Field is one of the first to really flesh out 3-act structure in his book, Screenplay. He talks about how screenplays should be divided into 3 parts, where Act 1 is a quarter of the story, Act 2 is half the story, and Act 3 is the last quarter. This is now the most common way of thinking about act structure, and we refer to this as quarter, half, quarter. You might also see some structuralists talking about 4-act structure, which just divides Act 2 in half, making 4 equal parts instead of 3 differently sized ones. But for the most part, they're talking about the same thing. There are plenty of names for these 3 acts. We call them Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, which is the most common. Another way is the beginning, middle, and end, but Field called these the setup, confrontation, and resolution. Blake Snyder, who wrote Save the Cat, calls these the thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. One metaphorical way is river, rapids, and waterfall. But no matter what you call them, it's important we all get on the same page about what they actually do and why they matter. First, acts are most commonly an expression of the plot, or a story. They divide your story into 3 distinct parts. Act 1 shows your protag in their normal life until the moment they start pursuing their goal. Act 2 shows your protag trying to achieve their goal and failing. And Act 3 shows your protag retrying and, most times, succeeding. In this way, we can think about acts as being very external and tied in with the A story, plot, goal, and want. Now, here's what you might not expect. There is a secret internal aspect to acts as well. This is rarely talked about, but it revolves around the epiphany and the need. Near the end of Act 2, the protag will usually undergo their epiphany, and the moment they embrace their need usually marks the break between Act 2 and Act 3. This break is important because the divisions between acts are super crucial moments. We'll dive into these concepts in depth in our next course, but to simplify, the break between Act 1 and Act 2 marks the moment the protag fully commits to their goal, and usually showcases a large external change. On the other hand, the break between Act 2 and Act 3 marks the moment the protag recommits to their goal, and usually showcases a large internal change. So, to bring it all together, Act 1 shows the protag in their usual world, the first break shows them committing to their goal, Act 2 shows them trying and failing, the second break shows them embracing their need and recommitting to their goal, and Act 3 shows them succeeding. That is an oversimplification, and we'll flesh this all out soon, but it helps to use acts as a bird's eye view of your story. This can also help to ensure your acts aren't too long or too short. Because if Act 1 is too long, it means you're taking too much time to really start your story. If Act 3 is too short, your climax may not be as fleshed out as it could be. Many popular movies hit the rough quarter, half, quarter breaks, and if they don't, it's usually for a clear reason. If you have any examples of stories with super weird act lengths, please let us know what they are down below. And that covers the essentials of 3-act structure. In our next course, we'll be populating these acts with specific moments and phases to fill out your story. But for now, we're going to look at a more complex model, the hero's journey, to see what a fleshed out story structure can look like. But if you can't get enough of 3-act structure, the extended version of this lesson covers a more visual way of thinking about acts, the two important pieces of your story they help separate, and includes an in-depth example of 3-act structure in the 2001 courtroom comedy Legally Blonde. See you there.